Life had a way of being quietly unremarkable. My name is Clara, and at 29 I was often found tucked away in the local library. It wasn't exciting or glamorous, but it was mine. The books were my constant companions, and the dusty shelves were my realm. I wasn't one for attention, content to blend into the background. The town was small, the kind where everyone knew everyone else's business before they did. My days followed a predictable routine. Wake up, work, and return to my modest apartment, filled with secondhand furniture and towering stacks of books. I didn't have much of a social life, but I was okay with that, or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. Then Caleb came into my life on a day just like any other. He was looking for a book, something different, he said. His smile was easy, and his voice had a warmth that reminded me of sunlight breaking through clouds. "Hey, could you help me find a book? I'm feeling adventurous," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Of course. What kind of book are you looking for?" I asked, adjusting my glasses, trying not to get lost in his gaze. "I'm not sure. Surprise me," he replied, grinning like he enjoyed the challenge. That was the start of it all. Our conversations became a regular part of my day. He'd ask about books, and I'd give him recommendations, but before long, those chats moved from novels to personal details about our lives. Caleb was different. He listened, truly listened, in a way that made me feel heard for the first time in years. One day, he came in looking more determined than usual. "You know, Clara, you're the most interesting person I've met in this town. Why do you hide out in here all day?" he asked, leaning on the counter, playful challenge in his eyes. I laughed, the sound unfamiliar to me. Where else would I go? "This town isn't exactly thrilling," Caleb responded quickly. "Maybe you just need someone to explore it with. How about dinner tonight? My treat." I hesitated, not used to such attention. "I'm not sure, Caleb." "Come on, what's the worst that could happen? You get to spend the evening with a guy who enjoys your book recommendations. Plus, I promise to make it worth your while." "Show me this hidden gem of a town," he coaxed, his confidence contagious. Against my better judgment, I agreed. "Okay, but no fancy places. I can't stand all that pomp and circumstance." Caleb's smile lit up the room. "I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable." That night changed everything. Caleb showed me parts of the town I'd never noticed, even though I'd lived there my whole life. He made me laugh, genuine, deep laughter that I hadn't realized I was capable of. He listened to my stories, my hopes, and my fears, never once making me feel small. As we walked back to my apartment, he stopped and looked at me, a serious look in his eyes. "Clara, I know we've just met, but there's something about you. You're not like anyone I've met before. You're real, and in a world full of pretenses, that's rare." I didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to me like that before. "Caleb, He cut me off gently, placing a finger on my lips. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that I see you, Clara. I see the person you are, and I like what I see." Caleb had always been the sweet spot in my day, making everything seem brighter with his care and affection. He had this way of making me feel seen, calling me beautiful, kind, and smart, things I hardly believed about myself. It was his warmth that won me over, making the idea of forever seem not just possible, but desirable. When he popped the question, it felt like a dream. "Marry me, Clara. I can't imagine my life without you," he had said, his eyes shining with sincerity. I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I breathed out, feeling a mix of excitement and disbelief. But before we could get lost in the whirlwind of wedding planning, there was one crucial step we had to take: meeting his parents. Caleb had given me a heads up, a sort of pre-warning. "My folks, they have a bit of a high standard for who I bring home, but don't sweat it, okay? They're going to love you once they see how amazing you are," he assured me, though his nonchalance did little to ease my nerves. I was a wreck before the meeting, rummaging through my wardrobe for something that screamed modest yet dignified. It felt like an impossible dress code to crack. Caleb, on the other hand, was the picture of calm, almost disinterested, as if the outcome of this meeting didn't weigh on him at all. "You're overthinking it, Clara. Just wear what you're comfortable in," he said casually, which only frayed my nerves further. The day arrived, and I chose a simple blue dress that I hoped struck the right balance. As we drove to his parents' house, Caleb seemed more preoccupied with the music on the radio than the impending introduction. "You sure they're going to like me?" I asked, seeking some reassurance. They'll come around. Just be yourself," Caleb replied, his attention briefly flitting to me before returning to the road. His laid-back attitude felt jarring compared to the storm of anxiety brewing inside me. Walking up to the door of Caleb's childhood home, my heart was pounding. His earlier warnings echoed in my head, painting a picture of the scrutiny I was about to face. The door swung open, and we were greeted by Caleb's parents, their expressions hard to read. The dinner that followed was a minefield. Caleb's parents grilled me with questions that felt more like an interrogation than casual dinner conversation. "So, Clara, Caleb tells us you work at a library. Do you see yourself doing that long-term?" his father asked, his tone suggesting he found my job lacking. I fumbled for an answer, trying to sound confident. "I love working there. It's fulfilling in a way I can't quite describe," I said, hoping my passion would be enough to win them over. Caleb was strangely quiet throughout, offering little support as I navigated the barrage of questions and veiled criticisms. It felt like I was alone on the battlefield, with Caleb retreating into a role of passive observer. As we drove home, the silence in the car was deafening. I couldn't help but feel disappointed, not just in the evening's events, but in Caleb's indifference. "I thought you said they'd warm up to me." I finally broke the silence, my voice tinged with hurt. Caleb shrugged, a frustratingly nonchalant gesture. "Give it time, Clara." "They just need to get to know you better," he said, his words doing little to comfort me. After a few more dinners that felt more like interrogations than friendly meals, it was clear Caleb's folks weren't my biggest fans. They saw me as some kind of gold digger, I guess, which couldn't be further from the truth. I was never after Caleb's money. Heck, I barely knew about it until he brought it up himself one evening, saying, "My parents are a bit old school, you know. They worry about the weirdest things like money and status." One evening, Caleb came home looking unusually serious. "Babe, we need to talk," he said, avoiding my gaze. That was when I realized something wasn't right. "What's going on?" I asked, my stomach twisting in anxiety. "It's my parents," he began, finally meeting my eyes. "They're insisting we sign a prenup." The word hit me like a cold wave, foreign, bitter. "Caleb, you know I don't care about your money, right?" I said, trying to make him understand. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know. And I don't care about it either, not when it comes to us. But they're insistent. They think it'll protect us or whatever." I was hurt. There was no denying that. It felt like they were already preparing for us to fail. But I loved Caleb more than I cared about his parents' opinions or some paper agreement. "Fine," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Let's sign it and get it over with. Your money, my money, whatever. I just want you." Caleb looked relieved, and that part of me felt frustrated. "Thank you, babe. I hate this as much as you do, but it's just a piece of paper. It won't change anything between us." So, we signed it. A lawyer his parents knew had drawn it up, ensuring that neither of us could touch the other's belongings if things went south. It felt like I was signing away any trust before we even started, but I pushed those thoughts aside. I was in love, and love was supposed to conquer all, right? Our wedding was simple, just the way I wanted it. A small gathering of close friends, an intimate ceremony, and a promise of forever. Soon after, I moved into Caleb's house. It wasn't anything extravagant, but it was a far cry from my old apartment. Caleb's parents lived nearby, which I soon learned meant surprise visits, more about checking up on me than anything else. Life with Caleb began like a fairy tale, but it didn't take long for the glossy exterior to fade and reveal the harsh reality beneath. The changes didn't happen overnight, but the signs were there, creeping in slowly, undermining what we had built. The first crack appeared with his mother, Vivian. She showed up unannounced one day, her eyes scanning the house like she was taking inventory. "Remember, this is Caleb's house. Everything here is his," she said. I tried to stay calm, replying, "I know, Vivian. I'm not here for your son's things. I love him." She scoffed. "Love doesn't pay the bills, dear. Just remember, if you ever leave, you leave with what you came with, nothing." One day she paraded around the house, pointing out every item Caleb owned. "This couch? Caleb's. That painting? Caleb's too. Just so you know, if things go south, you have no claim to any of it," she said, her voice dripping with venomous sweetness. It was as though she took pleasure in reminding me of my place in their world. Caleb's father, Richard, wasn't any better. He and Vivian acted like they owned the house, not just visiting. They'd demand coffee the moment they arrived, criticize how I made it too weak or too strong, and then plop down in front of the TV, expecting me to wait on them hand and foot. "Grab us some of those chips, will you? And maybe get to those clothes piling up in the corner while you're at it," Richard would say without even glancing at me. The worst part? Caleb never said a word. He'd laugh along with them, adding his own remarks. "Yeah, she's still learning how to do things around here. Give her time," he'd joke. I felt like I was losing my mind. This wasn't the man I married. This was someone else, someone dismissive and cruel. "Do you even hear yourself? How can you let them treat me like this?" I confronted Caleb after his parents left. "Babe, they're just set in their ways. You know how old people are," he shrugged, making it sound like I was the one overreacting. "They don't mean anything by it. Plus, we're on their dime. Can't bite the hand that feeds, right?" That stung. So that was it. I was just the freeloader, the woman who married into their empire and had to follow their rules or get out. My job at the library, which I loved, was just another reason for them to look down on me. The days blurred into each other, each one a repetition of the last, until that unremarkable Tuesday when everything changed. I was at work shelving books when I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, doubling me over. It wasn't just stress, it was something more, something worse. The next thing I knew, I was in the hospital, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling my nostrils. Lying in that hospital bed, I couldn't help but think how this was a new low. Alone, in pain, and not a single message or call from Caleb. Just when I thought things couldn't get any darker, a knock on the door heralded a visitor I never expected. Clara Turner? The man at the door was dressed in a suit, holding a briefcase, looking wildly out of place in the sterile hospital room. "Yeah, that's me. Who are you?" My voice was weak, tired from the pain and the endless cycle of disappointment. "I'm Michael Johnson, a notary. I have something important to discuss with you." His tone was formal, but there was something in his eyes that made me want to listen. I motioned for him to continue. Curiosity piqued despite the situation. "It's about your great-uncle, Edward Turner. He passed away recently and, well, you're his sole heir, Clara. He left you an inheritance." The words didn't make sense at first. "Are you sure you've got the right person? I haven't seen him for 15 years. Michael nodded. "Quite sure. He was a private man, but always remembered you. Wanted to make sure you were taken care of." Lying in the hospital bed, feeling a mix of confusion and anticipation, I watched as the notary prepared to delve into the specifics of my great-uncle's will. He cleared his throat, opened his briefcase, and laid out the documents in front of him. "Clara, your great-uncle was a man of substantial wealth and taste. He left you quite the inheritance. We're not just talking about cash here, though there's plenty of that 20 million to be exact," Michael began, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. I blinked, still trying to wrap my head around the numbers. 20 million to be exact, Michael began, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. I blinked, still trying to wrap my head around the numbers. 20 million, to be exact, Michael began, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. I blinked, still trying to wrap my head around the numbers. 20 million, I echoed, feeling my voice crack. That's right, he continued, unfazed by my shock. But there's more. You're also inheriting shares in several large companies. These are not minor investments. We're talking significant stakes in some of the most stable and profitable firms out there. My mind spun, struggling to grasp the enormity of what Michael was telling me. Owning parts of companies I'd only ever heard about on the news felt like something out of a dream. And there's the property, Michael continued, flipping through some papers. An old, large house in one of the most prestigious areas. It's not just any house, Clara. It's a mansion with history, acres of land, and it's all yours now. I tried to picture it, this mansion, something I'd only seen in movies. The thought was overwhelming. Don't forget the antique car, he added with a slight grin, as if he expected my reaction. A classic, fully restored and in mint condition, a collector's dream. I couldn't help but chuckle, the situation feeling almost unreal. An antique car, too? What do I even do with that? I barely drive as it is. Michael's smile grew. Well, it's yours to do with as you please. Maybe take it for a spin every now and then. And then there's the furniture and paintings inside the house, genuine antiques, some centuries old. Your great-uncle had a taste for the finer things in life. The room seemed to close in on me as I tried to process everything he was saying. So, I've inherited a fortune, a company, a mansion, an antique car, and a collection of art and furniture. That's unbelievable. It's all yours, Clara. Your great-uncle wanted to make sure you were well taken care of. He must have seen something special in you. Special? I didn't feel special. Especially not lying in a hospital bed after the most difficult months of my life. Yet here I was, a millionaire several times over, left with a legacy I hadn't even known existed. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. This is a lot to take in. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, my emotions a mix of gratitude, disbelief, and a deep sense of responsibility. We'll take it one step at a time, he reassured me. I'm here to guide you through the entire process. Just then, my phone buzzed. Caleb's name appeared on the screen for the first time in days. I ignored it and turned back to Michael. What happens now? We'll need to process some paperwork, but the inheritance is yours. Your life? Well, Clara, it's about to change. And change it did. After the unexpected fortune, Caleb and his family seemed to have a new attitude at least. That's what it looked like. Their daily hospital visits became almost like scenes from a cheesy romance film. Caleb, who hadn't even bothered to check on me before, now hovered around me constantly, adjusting my blanket with a furrowed brow. "How are you feeling today, love?" he asked, his voice dripping with sweetness that never quite reached his eyes. Vivian, his mother, was even more theatrical. "Darling, when you get back home, I'll make your favorite lasagna. Just you wait," she said, her smile wide but hollow. It was all too much, too sudden, but I played along, offering weak smiles and thanking them for their concern. Still, a sense of suspicion lingered, urging me to look beyond their facade. So, one day, I did. After their usual visit, I gathered the strength to slip out of bed and follow them. My heart raced with every step. Hiding behind a corner, I listened in as their true selves emerged, now with no audience to perform for. Their laughter was the first thing I heard, sharp, cruel, and jarring. "Can you believe how easy this is? She's so stupid, just eating out of our hands," Caleb chuckled. Vivian, ever the strategist, responded with a sharp tone. "Make sure she gets pregnant, Caleb. Once she does, she won't be able to leave us. Then we'll have full control over her and her fortune." Their words didn't shock me. Disappointment? Yes. But surprise? Not in the slightest. They had shown their true colors, and I was done pretending otherwise. Silently, I made my way back to my hospital bed, their mocking words stoking a fire within me. They saw me as nothing more than a ticket to wealth, a means to secure their future, but I wasn't going to play their game anymore. Lying in that bed, a plan began to form clear and firm. I was going to turn the tables on Caleb and his manipulative family. They had underestimated me, assumed I was weak, but I was about to show them just how wrong they were. Back at the house after being discharged, I felt like a stranger walking into what was supposed to be my home. Caleb and his parents were there waiting, their faces painted with fake concern and eagerness. The atmosphere was thick, charged with unspoken tension and expectation. Caleb was the first to break the silence, his voice a blend of faint sweetness and underlying greed. "Babe, you're home. How are you feeling? We've been so worried about you." Ignoring the lump in my throat, I met his gaze squarely, seeing the man I once thought I knew. "I'm feeling better, thanks, but we need to talk, all of us," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Vivian, ever the actress, stepped forward, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. "Of course, dear. We're here for you, whatever you need." It was now or never. I took a deep breath and laid out my cards. "I'm filing for divorce, Caleb. And before you ask, no, you won't see a dime of my INHI clearance." The room fell silent, the air sucked out of it as if by a vacuum. Caleb's face paled, his mask slipping to reveal the panic underneath. "Divorce? But why? I thought we were happy." Happy. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. "You, your mom, and your dad have made my life a living hell. You've treated me like a servant, not a wife, and now suddenly you're worried about me because I'm worth something to you." Caleb stammered, struggling to find the words, but Vivian, always quick, jumped in. "This is nonsense. We've always treated you like family. You're imagining things, dear." Rolling my eyes, I pulled the prenuptial agreement from my bag, waving it in front of Caleb. This is what saved me. You thought you could manipulate me, but I'm not the naive girl you thought I was." Richard, who had been silent until now, finally spoke, his voice a mixture of anger and resignation. "You'll regret this. We're your family." I scoffed. "No, you were never my family. A family doesn't treat someone like dirt and then suddenly turn sweet when money enters the picture. I'm done here." Moving into my own apartment was the breath of fresh air I so desperately needed. The space was small and cozy, a far cry from the life I'd left behind. But it wasn't just a new living situation, it was a declaration of my independence, my fresh start. It didn't take long before the phone call started. Caleb was the first to reach out, his voice thick with desperation. "Clara, please, you've got to come back. We can work this out, I know we can." But his pleas fell on deaf ears. I was finished, and no amount of begging could change that. "Caleb, it's over. I'm not coming back. You need to accept that," I said, my voice unwavering, leaving no room for debate. Not long after, Vivian called, her voice a toxic blend of anger and guilt-tripping. "Ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, you owe us, Clara. You're making a huge mistake." "Oh, I owe you? For what, Vivian? For making me feel like a burden?" "No, I don't owe you anything. Goodbye." Hanging up on her felt like shedding a heavy weight, severing the ties that had bound me to a life of misery. The divorce was a relief, a clean break from a past that had threatened to drown me. I soon heard through friends about the fallout between Caleb and his parents. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very document they'd insisted on, the prenuptial agreement, had now become the cause of their family strife. With my great-uncle's inheritance firmly in my hands, I found new purpose and a sense of generosity. I directed a significant portion of the money toward charities that mattered to me, causes I believed could make a real difference. But it was the bookstore that truly captured my heart, a cozy refuge for lovers of old and rare books. It was my way of reconnecting with the world on my own terms. My journey hadn't been easy, fraught with challenges, painful decisions, and hard truths. But standing in my bookstore, surrounded by the stories of others, I knew I had finally found my happy ending. It wasn't just about moving on from Caleb and his family's manipulation, it was about rediscovering who I was and what I loved. Here's to new beginnings, I toasted to myself one quiet evening after locking up the shop. The road ahead might be uncertain, but it was mine to travel, filled with possibilities and the promise of newfound happiness.